The 2026 draft board is shaping up in ways that could fundamentally alter how we build defense, and the decisions being made ahead of our pick are creating opportunities that didn't exist even a week ago. What's up, Bears Nation? Welcome back to Bears News Fan Report, your trusted source for everything Chicago Bears, bringing you the latest updates, insider analysis, and every piece of information you need. Stay connected with our beloved franchise. Today, I'm breaking down something that's been dominating draft across the league, a situation that directly impacts how Ryan Poles approached our first-round selection and what kind of defensive talent might actually be available when we're on the clock. 25. Stay with me through this entire breakdown, because by the time we reach the end, you're going to understand exactly why the moves happening in the middle of the first round could determine whether we land a game-changing defender or miss out on premium talent. This isn't just about mock draft speculation. This is about strategic position, understanding positional value, and recognizing how other teams' decisions create ripple effect, benefit, or hurt our ability to maximize pick. Before I get into the specific who might be available and what Poles should do, we need to understand the landscape draft. The 2026 draft is absolutely loaded with defensive talent, particularly at linebacker and edge rush, two positions where the Bears have shown consistent interest over the past few years. We've seen Poles prioritize building a defense that can pressure quarterback, cover ground sideline, and match up against explosive offensive face in the NFC North twice a year. The Vikings, Lions, and Packers all have high-powered attack, and if we're going to compete for division titles and playoff spots, we need defenders who can disrupt those systems. Look at what happened this past season when our pass rush disappeared for stretches, when we couldn't generate consistent pressure without sending extra rushers, leaving our secondary exposed against elite passing games. That's the problem Poles is trying to solve, and this draft provides multiple solutions depending on how the board falls. The top of this draft is quarterback heavy, which is typical for years, where there are multiple franchise-level prospects under center. Teams are making aggressive moves to jump up and secure their long-term answers at the most important position in football. The Jets are reportedly willing to trade up to number 1 overall. The Raiders are sitting at 2 ready to shot, and that quarterback run at the top pushes elite defensive talent down the board toward teams. That's the good news. When quarterbacks go early, it means impact defenders, who would normally be top 10 picks, start sliding into the middle and late first round, where we're positioned to pounce. The linebacker class is particularly deep, led by Arvil Reese out of Ohio State, projected to go 3rd overall to Tennessee. Reese is the prototypical modern linebacker, sideline-to-sideline runner with elite instinct, leadership qualities, and the versatility to play multiple roles in different defensive schemes. He's the kind of player you build your defense, a tone setter who makes everyone around him better. But Reese won't be available to pick a lock the top 5, and even if he somehow slipped, other teams ahead of us snatch him up immediately. So we have to focus on realistic targets, players who might actually be on the board and fit what Matt Eberflus wants defensively. That's where the middle of the first round becomes absolutely critical for our draft strategy. The Cowboys are sitting at 14. Multiple mock drafts have them targeting Sonny Styles from Ohio State, another linebacker from that loaded Buckeyes defense that's been producing NFL talent at an incredible rate. Styles is fascinating because he's not your traditional linebacker. He's more of a hybrid safety linebacker who can cover tight ends down the seam, blitz off the edge, and play in the box against the run. That versatility is exactly what modern NFL defenses covet, and it's why Dallas is seriously considering him despite having other needs across their roster. From a Bears perspective, Dallas taking Styles at 14 doesn't directly hurt us because we weren't realistically going to draft a linebacker that high anyway, not with our edge rush needs and the talent available at that position. But it does tell us something important about the market for these hybrid defenders and how teams are valuing versatility over pure positional special. The NFL is moving toward positionless defenses, where your best athletes play multiple roles depending on game situation, formation, and opponent tendency. If Dallas takes style, they're betting on that versatility being more valuable than a pure pass rusher or traditional coverage linebacker. That's a data point for Poles and our scouting department to consider when evaluating our own targets later in the round. The other significant development ahead of our pick is the run on edge rusher. Washington takes Ruben Bain at 8. Cincinnati grabs David Bailey at 9. Miami adds Keldrick Falk at 13. And Carolina takes Cassius Howell at 16. That's 4 elite edge prospects off the board before we even get close to to picking, which dramatically changes the landscape of available talent when we're on the clock. Traditionally, a run on one position creates value at others, but in this draft, the edge class is so deep, quality rush still available. This is where Poll's evaluation skills and our scouting department's ability to identify undervalued prospects becomes crucial. The Bears are projected to select Romello Height out of Texas Tech at pick 25, an edge rusher who brings exactly what we need: length, athletic upside, and the developmental traits that Eberflus loves working. Height isn't the finished product like some of the edge rushers who went earlier, but his ceiling is sky high if we can develop his pass rush repertoire and refine his technique. At 6'6", long arms and impressive bend for his size, Height has the physical tools to become a legitimate difference maker off the edge. What makes Height particularly intriguing for Chicago is his production trajectory. Tech. He wasn't always the most polished player, but his improvement year over year shows a player who's coachable, dedicated to his craft, and still scratching the surface of his potential. Those are exactly the traits that translate well to the NFL when you have a defensive staff that knows how to develop young pass. Eberflus has shown he can maximize athletic edge players, getting production guys who might not have elite technique compensate with effort, athleticism, and football intelligence. Height fits that mold perfectly, and at pick 25, he represents tremendous value for a player who could become a starter by year 2 and a Pro Bowler by year 3 if everything develops correctly. The strategic question for Poles is whether to take the developmental edge rusher like Height or pivot to a different position where more polished, higher floor prospects might be available. There will be cornerbacks, offensive linemen, and other defenders on the board at 25 who have fewer question marks and might contribute immediately. But the Bears' philosophy under this regime has been clear: draft for ceiling at premium positions and develop those players into impact starters. Edge rusher qualifies as a premium position, probably second only to quarterback in terms of positional value and impact on winning. Having a player who can consistently pressure opposing quarterbacks without needing help changes everything about how you can deploy your secondary and how you can defend in critical situations. That's why I believe Height makes sense at 25, even if he needs development time. We're not in win-now desperation mode where we need every pick to contribute immediately. We're building towards sustained success, creating a roster with young talent on rookie contracts that can compete for the next 5 to 7 years. Height fits that timeline perfect, giving us a high upside pass rusher who could be entering his prime just as our championship window opens. The comparison to make here is between taking a high floor, lower ceiling player who helps immediately but maxes out as a solid starter versus taking a high ceiling, lower floor player who might take time but could become elite. Both strategies have merit depending on where your roster is in its competitive cycle. For Chicago, I lean toward the high ceiling approach because we have enough veterans and proven players to handle the immediate load while we develop the next generation. The other consideration is position scarcity. Edge rushers who can actually beat NFL tackle are incredibly rare and expensive in free agency. If you can draft and develop one on a rookie contract, the value is enormous both on field and in terms of cap management. Height represents a calculated gamble that the athletic tools and production trajectory translate to the NFL level with proper coaching and development. So here's my analysis on this entire situation. The Cowboys taking Sonny Styles at 14 doesn't directly affect the Bears do at 20, but it reflects broader trend, teams valuing defensive versatility and Ohio State defender specific. For Chicago, focus should edge, and if Romello Height target fully supportive of, he brings the exact combination, length, athleticism, and upside that could make him a cornerstone defensive player for the next decade. The risk is real. Developmental prospects don't always pan out, but the reward is a potential Pro Bowl pass rusher on a rookie deal during our competitive window. It's worth the gamble. Now I want to hear from you, Bears faith. How do you feel about potentially selecting Romello Height in the first round? Would you prefer we go safer with a more polished prospect, or do you trust Eberflus to develop raw athletic talent into an elite pass rusher? Does the fact that Dallas might take Sonny Styles change how you think about linebacker versus edge rush for our needs? Drop your comments below because I genuinely want want to know where Bears Nation stands on this draft strategy. If you want to stay connected with every development leading up to the draft, every rumor about who the Bears are targeting, and complete analysis of every pick we make sure you're subscribed to Bears News Fan Report and hit that notification bell. I'll be bringing you constant update, draft day approach, and breaking down every angle of how we can maximize this opportunity. Share this video with every Bears fan you know, because this draft could define the next era of Chicago football. Let's stay informed together. Trust the process. Bear down, and I'll see you in the next one.